Welcome to Science Documentary for Sleep Channel. Tonight, we're going to explore what might happen if the last home you ever entered was also the last home your family would ever know. Not for one winter, not for one lifetime, but for 1,000 years. By the end of tonight, you will understand why the greatest challenge of crossing the stars is not distance. It is learning how an ordinary human life can continue when the universe quietly removes every familiar horizon. Imagine closing your front door before bed. You hear the gentle click of the lock. The walls feel familiar. The ceiling has not changed. Perhaps a distant refrigerator hums softly. Perhaps rain touches the windows. Nothing feels unusual. You expect tomorrow to arrive exactly where yesterday ended. That expectation follows you through nearly every day of your life. You leave, you return, you open another door, you breathe outside air, you feel sunlight. Even during the longest winter, the world patiently waits beyond your window. Earth gives us something so constant that we rarely notice it. There is always an outside. Now allow that simple certainty to slowly fade. Imagine a home with no front yard, no neighboring street, no changing weather, no sunrise, no birds, no wind moving across distant trees, no ocean, no mountains resting beneath clouds, only carefully engineered walls, only silent machinery, only recycled air, only the endless darkness pressing against metal that may be only a few centimeters thick. The door still exists, but it opens nowhere. That single idea changes everything. Most people imagine interstellar travel as movement, powerful engines, blazing stars, magnificent galaxies drifting outside enormous observation windows. Reality may become something much quieter, much slower, much smaller. The greatest journey humanity could ever attempt might feel less like sailing across an ocean. It may resemble living inside a town that never reaches another shore. A generation ship is not designed for explorers. It is designed for descendants. The people who build it know something extraordinary. They will never arrive. Their children will not arrive. Their grandchildren may never even meet someone who remembers Earth directly. Every birthday quietly measures another tiny step across distances almost impossible to imagine. The nearest stars appear close in our night sky. Your finger can cover one, yet those tiny lights remain separated by trillions of kilometers. Light itself, the fastest thing nature allows, needs more than 4 years to reach the closest neighboring star. Our fastest spacecraft would require tens of thousands of years. Even the remarkable Voyager probes, still racing outward after decades, have barely begun leaving the neighborhood of our own sun. Space does not become difficult because it is empty. It becomes difficult because emptiness is unimaginably large. On Earth, walking across a city feels meaningful. Driving across America feels enormous. Crossing an ocean reshapes your sense of distance. Interstellar space quietly makes every one of those journeys almost disappear. Imagine shrinking the Earth until it became a marble. The moon would still orbit several centimeters away. The sun would remain several meters distant. Neptune would drift more than 100 meters away. The nearest star would not stand in your backyard. It would wait thousands of kilometers beyond your horizon. The spaces between things are the true architecture of the universe. The stars themselves are only scattered islands. Everything else is silence. That silence creates a remarkable problem. Humans evolved inside changing landscapes. Our ancestors walked beneath moving clouds. They listened to rivers. They followed seasons. Every generation inherited familiar skies. Every migration eventually ended beside forests, valleys, or coastlines. Movement always promised arrival. A generation ship quietly removes that promise. There is movement, yet almost nobody experiences progress. The stars outside change so slowly that entire lifetimes pass before familiar constellations noticeably shift. The engines may continue pushing. The navigation computers may patiently adjust course. But inside, life begins resembling ordinary life on Earth. Children wake, adults work, meals are prepared, schools begin each morning. Music fills quiet evenings. People celebrate birthdays. Friends grow old together. Someone falls in love. Someone quietly dies. Outside, nothing changes. Darkness remains astonishingly patient. This contrast shapes every moment aboard such a vessel. The ship is moving faster than almost anything humanity has ever built. Yet emotionally, its passengers may feel almost perfectly still. This strange paradox becomes one of the greatest psychological challenges ever imagined. Humans measure life through changing scenery. Morning follows night. Summer follows winter. Leaves appear. Leaves disappear. Travel brings unfamiliar landscapes. Even a simple walk refreshes the mind. Inside a generation ship, the scenery may remain almost unchanged for centuries. One hallway resembles yesterday. One garden resembles last year. One artificial lake reflects the same carefully controlled ceiling. Everything feels wonderfully stable. Everything also risks becoming quietly timeless. Engineers therefore face an unexpected question. How do you build a machine that feels alive, not simply operational? Alive. Perhaps lighting changes gently across artificial days. Perhaps forests slowly mature before careful replanting. Perhaps neighborhoods evolve across generations. Perhaps architecture intentionally changes every century, not because it must, but because human minds quietly hunger for gentle variation. The ship must become more than transportation. It must become weather. It must become geography. It must become history. A successful generation ship is less like an airplane. It resembles a tiny planet, carefully folded inside steel. Every wall carries responsibility. Every corridor shapes emotion. Every window influences memory. Every park becomes precious. Even silence requires thoughtful design. Because silence can comfort, yet endless silence can slowly reshape the heart. Scientists often describe generation ships using engineering diagrams, cross-sections, rotating cylinders, power systems, agricultural zones, life support networks. These drawings explain survival. They explain almost nothing about living. Living happens somewhere else. It happens when grandparents tell stories beneath artificial trees. When children chase each other through gardens that never feel real enough to forget. When musicians compose songs about oceans they have never seen. When painters recreate sunsets using inherited photographs centuries old. When someone quietly wonders whether blue skies truly looked as beautiful as history claims. That question may never receive an answer, not from experience, only from memory carried across generations. Memory itself slowly changes. Anyone who has listened to family stories understands this. Details soften, voices disappear. Certain moments become brighter, others quietly fade. Now imagine that process continuing for 1,000 years. The original builders eventually become names, then portraits, then legends, finally symbols. Earth itself slowly transforms, not into a forgotten place, but into something resembling childhood. A home remembered more through feeling than certainty. Yet this creates another challenge. If memory slowly fades, how does purpose survive? Why continue repairing machines? Why continue growing food? Why continue teaching astronomy? Why continue following instructions written centuries before your birth? A civilization cannot rely upon engines alone. It must also preserve meaning. And meaning proves far more fragile than steel. The remarkable truth is that surviving 1,000 years in space may depend less upon advanced technology than upon ordinary human habits, repeated with gentle patience. Sharing meals, teaching children, repairing broken tools, celebrating quiet victories, grieving together, planting another tree whose shade you will never personally enjoy. The voyage continues because each generation quietly decides that tomorrow still deserves care. That decision becomes the invisible engine beneath every visible machine. And yet, even if purpose survives, even if communities remain strong, even if every child learns why the journey began, one enormous question still waits beyond the next silent corridor. A ship may carry people safely across centuries, but can it also create something Earth gives freely every second? Gravity itself. A neighborhood rarely asks us to notice its boundaries. You leave your house, walk across a familiar street, visit a nearby store, return before sunset. The world beyond your town remains connected by roads, rivers, skies, and invisible systems that quietly support everyday life. Few people ever wonder how much of that world is working together simply to keep one ordinary afternoon comfortable. A generation ship begins by removing every one of those invisible connections. There are no neighboring cities, No supply trucks, no rescue missions arriving next month, no distant nation producing replacement parts. The ship must become everything at once: a town, a forest, a factory, a hospital, a school, a government, a memory, a future. This is the first great transformation. Engineers do not simply build a spacecraft. They attempt something much stranger. They attempt to build a complete civilization inside a moving shell. The idea sounds surprisingly familiar. Every city on Earth already behaves like a living organism. Water flows beneath streets like blood through veins. Electricity resembles nervous signals. Food arrives every morning. Waste quietly disappears before most people notice it. Hospitals heal the injured. Teachers prepare the next generation. Farmers, mechanics, artists, scientists, and musicians all contribute to a larger balance that few individuals fully perceive. Modern civilization feels stable because millions of small systems cooperate continuously. Now imagine compressing that entire complexity into a structure only a few kilometers wide. Nothing may be wasted. Nothing may be forgotten. Every kilogram launched from Earth carries enormous cost. Every cubic meter must justify its existence. Every room performs more than one purpose. Corridors transport people. They also move air. Structural beams support buildings. They also channel power cables and water lines. Even decorative gardens become working ecosystems, producing oxygen, regulating humidity, calming human emotions, and supporting countless microscopic organisms. Beauty itself becomes infrastructure. That simple realization changes how architecture is understood. On Earth, a public park may exist because people enjoy walking beneath trees. Aboard a generation ship, the same park may also cool surrounding habitats, stabilize air quality, reduce psychological stress, encourage exercise, and preserve biodiversity. Every flower quietly performs several jobs while appearing effortless. Nature becomes carefully designed, yet it must never feel artificial. Human beings quickly notice environments that appear perfectly controlled. Absolute symmetry becomes tiring. Endless identical hallways slowly erase orientation. Minds evolved among irregular forests, uneven hills, shifting rivers, and changing weather. Complete order often feels strangely lifeless. Designers therefore introduce gentle variation, slightly different neighborhoods, seasonal lighting changes, artificial streams, diverse building materials, small imperfections, controlled unpredictability. The ship must breathe without appearing mechanical. It must age without appearing neglected. It must change slowly enough that children believe change is natural. Time itself becomes another building material. Entire districts may be redesigned every century, not because they are failing, because renewal reminds people that history continues moving. A city frozen forever eventually resembles a museum. A living civilization quietly accepts transformation. This brings another challenge. Population, too few people. An essential knowledge disappears after unexpected deaths. Too many people, and food, energy, and living space become impossible to balance. Researchers studying isolated communities often discover that resilience depends upon diversity. Different professions, different personalities, different skills, different ways of solving unexpected problems. A generation ship therefore carries more than passengers. It carries redundancy in human form, several physicians instead of one, multiple engineers trained in overlapping specialties, botanists who also understand chemistry, teachers who preserve history while preparing future scientists. Every generation inherits knowledge that cannot be allowed to vanish. Knowledge becomes as valuable as oxygen. Unlike oxygen, however, knowledge changes every time it is shared. Stories grow simpler, details fade, assumptions quietly shift. This is why written archives alone are insufficient. A civilization survives because living people continue practicing forgotten skills before they are actually forgotten. Imagine owning a violin. Place it inside a sealed room for 1,000 years. The instrument survives. The music does not. Only continuous performance preserves the tradition. The same principle governs medicine, engineering, agriculture, navigation, and governance aboard a generation ship. Skills remain alive only while someone continues using them. This realization slowly reshapes education. Schools no longer prepare children merely for careers. They prepare civilization for another century. Every classroom quietly protects people not yet born. Every lesson extends farther into the future than any teacher will ever witness. Outside the hull, meanwhile, almost nothing interrupts the voyage. The stars drift with impossible patience. Interstellar space offers neither encouragement nor resistance. It simply exists. Distances shrink so slowly that daily life never notices. The true movement occurs inside. Infants become adults. Adults become grandparents. Languages soften. Customs evolve. New holidays appear. Old traditions disappear. The ship crosses light years while its people cross generations. The vessel itself begins resembling a tiny world suspended inside endless darkness. Not because it imitates Earth perfectly, because Earth has always been more than rock and oceans. Earth is a system of relationships between air and forests, between rivers and mountains, between memory and place. A successful generation ship must recreate those relationships instead of merely copying appearances. That task proves harder than building engines. Metal obeys mathematics. People do not. Communities require trust, shared purpose, gentle rituals, quiet routines repeated so often that they become invisible. Morning markets, evening concerts, festivals marking artificial seasons, small traditions that remind every child they belong somewhere meaningful. Home is rarely defined by walls. Home is defined by repetition. The smell of familiar bread, the sound of distant conversations, footsteps echoing through places your grandparents also walked. Over centuries, those ordinary moments slowly replace Earth itself. The descendants no longer feel like visitors aboard a spacecraft. They feel native. Their planet simply happens to move. That subtle shift marks the true birth of a generation ship. It stops being humanity's vehicle. It becomes humanity's habitat. Yet every habitat depends upon one invisible gift inherited from Earth since birth. A force so constant that most people never notice it until it disappears. Gravity. Without it, even the most beautiful city would slowly become impossible to inhabit. Every morning begins the same way. Your feet touch the floor. Your body rises without thought. A cup rests securely on the table. Water flows downward into the sink. You never negotiate with gravity. It has already made its decision long before you awaken. Like breathing, it belongs to the quiet background of life. We rarely thank it because it has never asked for attention. Now imagine waking one morning and discovering that down no longer exists. The cup floats beside your bed. A blanket drifts across the room. A single drop of water hangs in the air like a tiny crystal planet. Your muscles struggle with movements they have practiced since infancy. Even swallowing becomes slightly unfamiliar. Every ordinary action suddenly demands concentration. This is the hidden reality of space. Weightlessness is beautiful for a few moments. Living inside it for generations is something entirely different. Scientists learn this lesson gradually. Astronauts returning from long missions often experienced weakened muscles. Bones lost density. Balance became uncertain. The heart changed how it pumped blood because it no longer fought against Earth's gravity. Even eyesight could shift after months in orbit. Human biology quietly reveals its history. Every cell carries the memory of evolving beneath one constant pull. A generation ship cannot simply ignore that memory. Instead, it must create an illusion. The most practical solution is surprisingly simple. Do not pull people downward. Move the floor upward. Imagine tying a small stone to a string. Spin it gently above your head. The stone seems to press outward. Your hand continuously changes the stone's direction. Yet the stone feels as though an invisible force pushes away from the center. The faster it spins, the stronger that sensation becomes. A rotating habitat uses the same principle. The ship slowly turns. Its outer walls become the ground. People walking inside experience a force pressing their feet against the floor. It is not gravity in the traditional sense. It is inertia. Yet, to someone living there, the distinction slowly disappears. Water pours normally. Chairs remain on the ground. Trees grow toward carefully placed lights. Children learn to walk exactly as they would on Earth. Physics quietly imitates nature. The larger the rotating habitat, the gentler this illusion becomes. A small wheel must spin rapidly, creating subtle sensations that remind the inner ear something unusual is happening. A much larger cylinder rotates more slowly, while producing nearly the same artificial gravity. Size, therefore, becomes comfort. Comfort becomes health. Health becomes survival. Engineers studying concepts such as the O'Neill cylinder understood this decades ago. A habitat several kilometers long could contain neighborhoods, farms, lakes, and forests arranged along its inner surface. Looking upward would reveal another landscape suspended across the rotating cylinder. Tiny lights might resemble distant villages. Rivers could appear to flow through the sky. The horizon would gently curve until disappearing into soft atmospheric haze. It would feel impossible. Until it became ordinary, children born aboard such a ship would never think the view unusual. They would simply call it home. This reveals something profound about perception. Humans adapt remarkably quickly. The extraordinary becomes familiar through repetition. A person visiting such a habitat might spend hours staring upward in astonishment. A resident might walk beneath the same breathtaking view without lifting their eyes. Wonder quietly fades into routine. Routine becomes culture. Yet rotation introduces its own quiet complications. Objects moving in different directions experience subtle effects created by the ship's spin. Throwing a ball may produce a slightly curved path. Long hallways aligned with the rotation could feel different from those running around the circumference. Elevators moving toward the center would gradually reduce apparent weight. Climbing higher inside the habitat would literally make your body lighter. Imagine hiking up a hill where gravity itself slowly weakens. The landscape remains familiar. Physics quietly changes beneath every step. Near the central axis, weight almost disappears completely. Maintenance crews could float through machinery while carefully repairing systems that would be difficult to reach under full gravity. Cargo might move effortlessly through central transport corridors before descending back toward the inhabited outer levels. Different regions of the ship would possess different physical personalities, each shaped by distance from the rotating shell. The vessel becomes more than architecture. It becomes geography, created through motion. People may even develop customs connected to these different environments. Children might play unique games near lower gravity zones. Artists could create floating sculptures impossible on Earth. Musicians might compose performances where instruments drift gracefully through carefully choreographed spaces. Daily life would quietly weave physics into culture. Every engineering decision eventually reaches the human heart. That is the hidden pattern aboard a generation ship. Nothing exists only as machinery. Everything influences emotion. A well-designed habitat does more than protect life. It encourages belonging. Wide streets reduce stress. Natural lighting supports healthy sleep cycles. Open parks soften isolation. Gentle curves replace harsh corners. Even the sound of ventilation systems matters. Constant mechanical noise may slowly exhaust the mind over decades. Silence, carefully balanced with subtle natural sounds, becomes another form of life support. Engineers, therefore, become architects of experience, not merely builders of machines. Because surviving 1,000 years requires more than functioning equipment. It requires people who still enjoy waking each morning, who still feel comfort walking familiar paths, who still pause beneath artificial trees without questioning whether those trees grow beneath a real sky. Eventually, they stop comparing. The rotating habitat becomes reality itself. Earth becomes the story, yet even perfect gravity solves only one problem. Every comfortable step still depends upon something far more fragile, something impossible to manufacture from empty space alone. Every quiet conversation, every sleeping child, every growing forest, every beating heart depends upon the same invisible substance drifting gently through every corridor, air, and aboard a generation ship. Every single breath must find its way home again. You rarely notice your next breath. It arrives before you ask for it. Air slips quietly into your lungs. Oxygen enters your blood. Carbon dioxide leaves your body. A moment later, the breeze outside carries it away. Forests, oceans, and invisible currents continue the cycle without asking for your attention. Earth performs this exchange so faithfully that breathing feels almost effortless. Now imagine there is nowhere for your breath to go. Inside a generation ship, every exhale remains aboard. Every molecule stays. Every trace of moisture, every tiny particle, every invisible gas. Nothing escapes into the endless darkness. The ship becomes a sealed conversation between millions of breaths stretching across centuries. This simple truth transforms air into one of the most valuable resources ever known. A common misunderstanding about space travel is that oxygen is the greatest challenge. Oxygen is important, but it is only half the story. Human beings consume oxygen. They also produce carbon dioxide, left unchecked. Carbon dioxide quietly becomes dangerous long before oxygen completely disappears. Even slightly elevated concentrations reduce concentration. Higher levels bring headaches. Still higher levels affect judgment, breathing, and eventually survival. The problem is not finding fresh air. The problem is continuously renewing old air. Earth solves this with astonishing elegance. Trees absorb carbon dioxide. Oceans dissolve vast quantities of gas. Tiny marine organisms produce enormous amounts of oxygen. Wind constantly mixes the atmosphere. Rain washes particles from the sky. The planet behaves like an immense breathing organism whose systems have refined themselves over billions of years. A generation ship must recreate a tiny version of that planetary miracle. Mechanical systems can help. Chemical scrubbers remove carbon dioxide from circulating air. Filters capture microscopic particles. Sensors quietly monitor atmospheric composition every second of every day. Powerful fans ensure that no invisible pocket of stale air quietly forms inside a forgotten corridor. Yet machines alone are rarely enough for a voyage lasting 1,000 years. Machines wear down. Living systems repair themselves. This is why many proposed generation ships include forests, gardens, algae farms, wetlands, and carefully balanced ecosystems. These are not decorative luxuries. They are active components of life support. Leaves quietly absorb carbon dioxide. Roots support microscopic fungi. Soil hosts billions of bacteria. Tiny insects recycle organic matter. Every organism contributes a small task. Together, they perform work that no single machine easily replaces. The remarkable lesson is that life itself becomes technology. A tree aboard a generation ship is simultaneously a plant, an air purifier, a cooling system, a psychological refuge, and part of an ecological network extending far beyond its trunk. One tree alone changes little. Thousands working together quietly transform the atmosphere. The same principle applies to water. When you wash your hands at home, the water disappears down a drain. We seldom think about where it goes next. Municipal systems clean it. Rivers carry it onward. Rain eventually returns it to the land. Earth's water cycle stretches across continents. Inside a sealed ship, There are no continents. Every drop must return. Water from showers, water from cooking, water released through breathing, even moisture carried by sweat. Nothing can simply disappear. Sophisticated recycling systems already exist aboard modern spacecraft. Water vapor condenses from cabin air. Wastewater passes through filtration. Advanced purification removes contaminants until the result becomes cleaner than many natural water sources on Earth. Future generation ships would extend these systems dramatically. Every sink becomes part of a planetary scale loop. Every greenhouse quietly returns moisture to the atmosphere. Artificial rain may even fall inside controlled agricultural districts before flowing into underground reservoirs. The cycle never truly ends. The same water may nourish hundreds of generations. There is something deeply humbling about that thought. A child born 800 years into the voyage may drink water once touched by the original builders. Molecules themselves possess no memory, yet they quietly connect lives separated by centuries. The ship slowly teaches an ancient lesson that Earth often hides. Nothing is truly thrown away. It only changes form. This understanding reshapes culture as much as engineering. Waste becomes an unfamiliar concept. Every discarded object represents future usefulness waiting to be rediscovered. Organic material returns to agriculture. Carbon returns to plants. Water returns to reservoirs. Even heat generated by machinery may warm living spaces or support greenhouse temperatures. Efficiency becomes a form of respect, not because resources are expensive, because resources are finite. Children growing up aboard the vessel would likely see recycling differently from people on Earth. For them, it would not be an environmental campaign. It would simply describe reality. Every object belongs to a cycle larger than itself. Perhaps this perspective slowly changes how people see one another as well. Communities, like ecosystems, thrive through cooperation. One individual contributes knowledge, another grows food, another repairs machinery, another composes music that quietly eases anxious minds after difficult days. None survives completely alone. Nature has always worked this way. Leaving the ship merely makes that truth impossible to ignore. Yet living ecosystems introduce another quiet difficulty. Life rarely remains perfectly balanced. A single bacterial mutation, a new fungal disease, an invasive insect, a crop failure. Any one of these small events may ripple through the habitat over years. Engineers therefore become gardeners. Biologists become physicians for entire ecosystems. Continuous observation replaces blind confidence. Every leaf may reveal subtle changes long before instruments detect them. The forest itself becomes an early warning system. Silence speaks. Color changes, growth slows, patterns shift. Attentive eyes notice. Patient minds respond. The greatest strength of a living ecosystem is also its greatest uncertainty. Life adapts, sometimes exactly as planned, sometimes in completely unexpected ways. The descendants aboard the ship may spend centuries learning not how to dominate nature, but how to negotiate with it. They inherit an artificial world that remains alive enough to surprise them. Perhaps that is the closest imitation of Earth anyone could achieve. Because our own planet has always been quietly unpredictable, every breath aboard the ship reminds its inhabitants of that fragile partnership. The air enters, the air leaves, the cycle continues, not through abundance, through balance. And once air and water are preserved, another question quietly emerges. Breathing keeps people alive, drinking keeps them healthy. But every generation still gathers around something even more ancient than civilization itself, a shared meal. How do you feed descendants who have not yet been born? While crossing a darkness that offers nothing to harvest, most evenings end with a familiar ritual. Someone prepares dinner. Bread is sliced, vegetables are washed, a pot begins to simmer, plates gather around a table. The meal lasts perhaps 30 minutes. Afterwards, the kitchen grows quiet again. Tomorrow, another meal will appear almost without thought. Grocery stores refill their shelves overnight. Farms beyond the horizon continue working while most families sleep. The remarkable complexity behind every dinner remains almost invisible. A generation ship removes that comforting invisibility. There are no distant farms, no cargo ships crossing oceans, no harvest arriving from another continent. Every grain of wheat, every leaf of lettuce, every apple, every egg, every fish, every cup of tea must originate inside the vessel itself. Food stops being something delivered. It becomes something continuously created. The challenge extends far beyond growing enough calories. Human beings require proteins, vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, fiber, countless microscopic nutrients discovered only after centuries of nutritional science. A successful generation ship cannot merely prevent starvation, it must quietly sustain healthy minds. Growing children, aging adults, and future generations for an entire millennium. The first instinct might be to imagine endless rows of hydroponic vegetables beneath bright artificial lights. That image is only partly correct. Hydroponics offers remarkable efficiency. Plants receive water directly at their roots. Nutrients remain carefully controlled. Very little moisture escapes. Growth becomes predictable inside a sealed habitat. Such precision saves enormous resources. Yet people do not live on lettuce alone. Agriculture aboard a generation ship would resemble an orchestra rather than a single instrument. Grain fields provide carbohydrates. Fruit orchards offer vitamin. Legumes restore nitrogen while supplying protein. Mushrooms quietly recycle organic matter. Algae grow rapidly inside illuminated tanks, producing both food and oxygen. Aquaculture raises fish whose waste nourishes surrounding plants. Insects may provide efficient protein while consuming organic leftovers that would otherwise become waste. Nothing exists alone. Every system quietly supports another. This interconnected design mirrors nature itself. Walk through an ordinary forest on Earth. Trees seem like the main characters, yet beneath the soil lies another world. Fungi exchange nutrients between roots. Countless bacteria decompose fallen leaves. Tiny insects break apart wood. Worms reshape the earth grain by grain. Every organism contributes something almost invisible. Remove enough of those hidden workers. The forest slowly weakens. The same principle governs life aboard the ship. A greenhouse is never just a greenhouse. It is an ecosystem carefully persuaded to remain balanced. Balance, however, rarely remains permanent. A small disease can spread through identical crops with surprising speed. A single pest introduced accidentally may threaten years of careful cultivation. Earth absorbs many agricultural failures because different regions produce food independently. One failed harvest seldom ends civilization. A generation ship has no neighboring nation to provide emergency supplies. Resilience must therefore be built into every harvest. Multiple crop varieties reduce risk. Different growing methods protect against unexpected failure. Seed banks preserve genetic diversity. Some plants mature within weeks. Others require years. Together, they create a layered agricultural calendar where no single season determines survival. Time itself becomes another farming tool. Artificial seasons may rotate through different habitats. One district harvests while another begins planting. Orchards bloom beneath carefully programmed sunlight. Pollinating insects quietly follow their ancient instincts, unaware that stars rather than skies surround them. Even bees become astronauts. Perhaps that image feels strangely gentle, a honeybee drifting between blossoms beneath an artificial dawn, never seeing a real sunrise, yet faithfully continuing work that began millions of years before humanity itself existed. Nature carries remarkable patience. It does not ask where the garden stands, only whether flowers still bloom. Food also nourishes something less measurable: memory. Think about the meals you remember most clearly. Perhaps fresh bread from childhood, soup prepared during winter, coffee shared before sunrise, a holiday dinner surrounded by familiar voices. Flavor often becomes a doorway into the past. Generations born aboard the ship would create their own culinary traditions. Certain recipes might survive from Earth almost unchanged. Others would slowly evolve as available ingredients shifted. Fruits impossible to cultivate may disappear from the memory. New vegetables engineered for efficient growth become everyday staples. Eventually, descendants may celebrate festivals centered around foods unknown to the original builders. Culture quietly follows agriculture. Every civilization in history has reflected its harvest. Rice shaped East Asia, wheat influenced Europe, maize transformed the Americas. The crops people grow slowly influence architecture, traditions, celebrations, trade, and identity. A generation ship would continue this ancient pattern. Its cuisine would become uniquely interstellar, not because people sought novelty, because adaptation gently rewrites tradition. There may even come a day when children hear stories about oranges, coconuts, or ocean fish with the same curiosity modern children reserve for extinct animals. Earthly abundance slowly becomes mythology, yet careful planning can soften that loss. Genetic libraries preserve seeds collected from across our planet. Advanced cultivation techniques may recreate surprising diversity within limited space. Artificial intelligence quietly monitors soil chemistry, nutrient cycles, humidity, and plant health every hour. Robotic systems assist with repetitive tasks, while human farmers continue making the subtle decisions that experience teaches better than algorithms. Technology supports agriculture. It never completely replaces wisdom. Farmers have always observed tiny details invisible to instruments: the color of a leaf, the scent of damp soil, the silence where insects should be. Such quiet observations may remain equally valuable 1,000 years from now, because living systems often whisper before they fail. The descendants aboard the vessel may eventually discover that farming is not merely food production. It is conversation, a slow conversation with life itself. Seeds ask for patience. Trees ask for years. Forests ask for generation. The answers arrive gradually. Perhaps this rhythm becomes emotionally important. In a world where stars barely move, gardens still change. New leaves appear, flowers open, fruit ripens. Harvest follows planting. These quiet cycles remind people that time continues flowing, even while the universe outside appears almost perfectly still. The gardens become clocks, not mechanical clocks, living clocks. Their seasons measure hope more gently than calendars ever could. Yet every harvest depends upon something even more fragile than healthy soil: knowledge. Someone must remember which seeds to save, which diseases to recognize, which traditions to preserve. After enough generations pass, the greatest danger may no longer be hunger. It may be forgetting why the harvest mattered in the first place. Think about an old family photograph. Perhaps it rests inside a drawer. Perhaps it hangs quietly on a wall. You recognize the faces because someone once explained who they were. A great-grandparent, a distant aunt, a child who later became an old man. Without those stories, the photograph slowly becomes anonymous. The image survives. The meaning quietly fades. Memory has always been humanity's most delicate inheritance. A generation ship magnifies that truth until it becomes one of the mission's greatest challenges. The first people boarding the vessel remember Earth clearly. They know the smell of rain after summer heat. They remember oceans stretching beyond the horizon. They have walked beneath open skies where clouds change shape without permission. Their memories require no explanation because they lived them. Their children inherit those memories through stories. Their grandchildren inherit stories about stories. Several generations later, Earth begins changing its place inside the human imagination. It no longer feels like yesterday. It begins resembling ancient history. Imagine asking a child today to describe life inside a medieval castle. The child may know certain details: stone walls, torches, kings, knights. Yet none of those images come from experience. They come from books, paintings, museums, and imagination. 1,000 years into an interstellar voyage, Earth may occupy the same quiet space, not forgotten, reimagined. This creates a remarkable question. How does a civilization preserve purpose after the people who began the journey are long gone? The original builders understood why they left. Perhaps Earth faced environmental decline. Perhaps expanding humanity became necessary. Perhaps curiosity itself inspired the mission. Whatever the reason, that motivation belongs to people living at the beginning. Future generations inherit the consequences, not the decision. A child born 700 years into the voyage never chose to leave Earth. From their perspective, the ship has always existed. Its corridors are ordinary. Its gardens are familiar. Its artificial sunrise defines morning. The destination is something teachers discuss in classrooms, not something personally remembered. This subtle shift changes everything. History is no longer simply information. History becomes infrastructure. Without it, the mission slowly loses direction. Ancient civilizations understood this better than we sometimes realize. Oral traditions carried laws, navigation, ethics, and identity across centuries before widespread writing existed. Stories preserved practical knowledge alongside emotional meaning. Heroes became symbols. Journeys became lessons. Myths quietly protected cultural memory. A generation ship would likely create new traditions serving similar purposes. Annual ceremonies might commemorate Departure Day. Children may recite the names of the first crew. Families could plant trees honoring earlier generations. Music written on Earth may still be performed centuries later. Even after its original language slowly changes, culture becomes another life support system. Not because ceremonies produce oxygen, because they produce continuity. People rarely endure hardship without believing that hardship belongs to something larger. This is one reason historians study rituals so carefully. Rituals stabilize communities during uncertain times. They remind individuals that their lives belong to an ongoing story extending beyond themselves. Inside a generation ship, that larger story stretches across 1,000 years. No single person can witness its ending. Everyone becomes a temporary caretaker. Knowledge therefore requires unusual protection. Books alone are insufficient. Digital archives may fail. Storage formats become obsolete. Languages evolve. Even perfect records lose value if nobody understands them. Engineers call this the problem of long-term preservation. Historians simply call it forgetting. The solution may involve redundancy at every level. Printed books, digital libraries, recorded voices, teachers, apprenticeships, public storytelling, living museums where children practice ancient skills instead of merely reading about them. A navigation lesson may include astronomy. An astronomy lesson may include history. A history lesson may include philosophy. Knowledge becomes interconnected because isolated facts disappear more easily than meaningful narratives. Imagine teaching someone how to build a violin. The measurements matter. The wood matters. The tools matter. Yet the music gives those instructions purpose. Without purpose, technical knowledge slowly becomes empty. Without technical knowledge, purpose becomes impossible to achieve. The two quietly protect one another. Generations aboard the ship may even debate history differently from people on Earth. Some traditions remain unchanged. Others evolve. New interpretations appear. Old assumptions fade. This is not necessarily failure. It is evidence that culture remains alive. Living civilizations reinterpret their past continuously. Frozen civilizations become museums. The challenge lies in preserving the mission while allowing people enough freedom to make the mission their own. Too much rigidity creates resentment. Too much flexibility risks forgetting. Somewhere between those extremes, a stable culture slowly grows. Perhaps children memorize not only historical dates, but personal journals written by the original crew. Hearing an ordinary voice describing fear, excitement, homesickness, or hope creates emotional bridges across centuries. Facts explain events. Stories explain people. People remember stories longer than statistics. That simple truth may determine whether the voyage succeeds. Because eventually, someone will ask a quiet question. Why are we still going? The answer cannot depend solely upon mathematics. distance alone inspires few hearts, the answer must remind each generation that they belong to something larger than themselves. A promise carried forward, not a burden imposed behind them. This realization changes leadership as well. Captains eventually disappear. Administrations change. Institutions evolve. No government survives unchanged for 1,000 years. The ship must therefore create systems capable of peaceful adaptation without abandoning its central purpose. History offers many examples. Nations that endured for centuries rarely remained identical. They changed gradually while preserving enough shared identity to remain recognizable. The same principle may guide humanity between the stars. Continuity through careful transformation, not perfect preservation. Outside, meanwhile, the universe continues its patient silence. Stars drift almost imperceptibly. The destination grows closer each year. No passenger notices. Only the instruments quietly measure progress. Inside, however, time moves through faces instead of distances. Children become parents. Parents become grandparents. New voices replace old ones. The voyage advances because life itself advances. And after enough generations pass, another quiet mystery begins to emerge. What happens when people no longer remember Earth as home? What kind of civilization grows from children who have never seen a real sky? Most people can answer a simple question without hesitation. Where is home? Perhaps a particular street appears in your mind. A familiar porch, a childhood bedroom, the scent of rain on summer pavement, the sound of a train passing somewhere beyond the neighborhood. Home is rarely defined by coordinates alone. It is a collection of repeated moments woven gently together until they begin to feel permanent. Now imagine asking that same question aboard a generation ship. The oldest passengers answer without difficulty: Earth. The middle generations pause before speaking. The youngest never hesitate. The ship. This quiet difference marks one of the deepest transformations of the entire voyage. The original crew understands they are travelers. Their descendants do not. For a child born 500 years after departure, there is no emotional distinction between a planet and a spacecraft. The curved parks, the artificial rivers, the rotating sky, the familiar classrooms, these are not temporary surroundings. They are reality itself. Earth becomes a place described rather than experienced. Something similar has happened many times throughout history. Families crossed oceans, searching for new beginnings. Children born in distant lands often carried stories about ancestral homes they had never visited. Languages slowly changed. Customs blended together. Grandparents remembered one world. Grandchildren belonged to another. The emotional distance was measured in generations. A generation ship stretches that process across light years. Imagine showing an ancient photograph of the Pacific Ocean to a child born aboard the vessel. They see endless blue water. They hear adults describe waves larger than buildings. They learn about tides guided by a distant moon. They understand the science. Yet understanding and memory are not the same thing. The ocean becomes an idea, not a personal experience. Perhaps the child asks an unexpected question. Why would anyone want so much empty water? The adults smile. They try to explain. They describe salty air, the smell of seaweed, the endless rhythm of waves meeting sand, the feeling of standing beneath an open horizon where nothing interrupts the view. Words carry remarkable power. They also possess quiet limits. Some experiences refuse complete translation. The same may happen with weather. Earth constantly changes its face. Morning fog, autumn leaves, spring blossoms, summer storms, snow settling silently across rooftops. A generation ship carefully controls its environment. Temperature remains stable. Humidity remains balanced. Artificial seasons may exist, yet they follow schedules written by engineers rather than clouds drifting across continents. Future generations may celebrate festivals inspired by winter without ever experiencing an unexpected snowfall. Their understanding becomes cultural rather than instinctive. This does not make it less meaningful, only different. Human identity has always adapted to changing environments. People living beside deserts imagine the world differently from those raised among forests. Islanders develop traditions unlike mountain communities. Geography, quietly shapes language, architecture, music, and belief. The geography of a generation ship shapes culture in equally profound ways. Distance becomes internal instead of external. People measure journeys through corridors rather than highways. Neighborhoods form around agricultural districts. Educational centers, research laboratories, and quiet parks. The rotating habitat becomes a complete landscape. Children invent games using familiar curves of the ship. Artists paint the same artificial lake across generations. Poets describe sunlight produced by carefully programmed lamps, because that light has warmed every morning of their lives. Authenticity slowly changes meaning. Something does not become real because it formed naturally. It becomes real because human lives unfold within it. This realization challenges a common assumption. Many people believe descendants aboard the vessel would spend every day longing for Earth. Perhaps the opposite eventually becomes true. Earth may inspire curiosity, respect, wonder, even affection. Yet longing usually belongs to places we personally remember. You cannot truly miss a home you never knew. Instead, the descendants may feel protective toward the ship itself. Its walls sheltered every ancestor they have ever known. Its forests produced every shared meal. Its hospitals welcomed every newborn child. Its memorial gardens honored every farewell. The vessel quietly earned the title of home through service rather than origin. That emotional bond may become one of humanity's greatest strengths. People defend what they love, not merely what they inherit. Of course, questions would still remain. Some children inevitably wonder what lies beyond the hull. They gather around observation windows. They search for distant stars. Teachers explain constellations no longer resemble those seen from Earth because the ship has already traveled across unimaginable distances. The familiar sky slowly rearranges itself. Ancient navigation maps lose meaning. New celestial patterns become ordinary. Even the heavens evolve. History has always reminded us that maps shape imagination. As coastlines expanded, civilizations expanded with them. The generation ship possesses only one map: the route ahead, the route behind. Everything else is silent darkness. Perhaps that silence encourages new philosophies. Some people view the voyage as sacred. Others see it as scientific duty. Artists interpret the stars through music instead of mathematics. Children invent myths explaining mysterious lights beyond the observation deck before eventually learning astrophysics in school. Knowledge and imagination continue growing together, just as they always have. Humanity never stops telling stories. It merely changes the stage. There may even come a century when a young student asks whether Earth itself was ever entirely real. The classroom grows quiet. The teacher smiles gently, then opens an archive containing recordings made 1,000 years earlier. Wind moving through trees, thunder rolling across distant hills, ocean waves breaking against stone, birdsong before sunrise. Simple sounds, yet they carry extraordinary weight. For a few quiet moments, the classroom listens to a world that no living person has ever walked. No lecture follows, none is necessary. Sometimes memory survives most faithfully through sound, as those echoes slowly fade. Another truth quietly emerges. A civilization can survive without remembering every detail of its birthplace. But it cannot survive if its people lose hope in the place they already call home. The ship has become that home. Yet even the strongest communities face an invisible challenge. Walls protect the body, purpose protects the mind, and after centuries surrounded by the same familiar horizons, the greatest distance may no longer exist outside the vessel. It may begin growing quietly within the human heart itself. Imagine spending one quiet weekend completely alone. The phone remains silent. The streets outside seem empty. Hours pass without conversation. At first, the stillness feels comforting. Your thoughts slow. Time stretches gently. Then something subtle begins to change. You notice every small sound: the ticking of a clock, the hum of distant electricity. Your own breathing becomes strangely noticeable. Solitude slowly changes the rhythm of the mind. Now imagine not a weekend, not a month, not even a lifetime. Imagine belonging to a civilization that has lived in quiet isolation for centuries. A generation ship does not merely cross interstellar space, it crosses psychological space. Human beings evolved in communities surrounded by changing landscapes and unexpected encounters. New travelers arrived, seasons shifted, animals migrated, weather interrupted ordinary routines. Even uncertainty carried variety. A generation ship removes much of that natural unpredictability. The environment becomes stable. The population changes slowly. The same familiar faces fill daily life. Stability brings comfort. It can also quietly invite monotony. Psychologists studying isolated environments have observed an interesting pattern. Whether inside Antarctic research stations, submarines, or orbital laboratories, people rarely struggle because every day feels difficult. They struggle because every day begins to resemble the one before it. The human brain quietly searches for novelty. It enjoys recognizing patterns, but it also longs for gentle surprise. A successful generation ship must therefore nourish curiosity as carefully as it nourishes crops. Entertainment becomes infrastructure. Art becomes maintenance. Music becomes emotional engineering. At first, this idea may sound almost unnecessary. Surely food, water, and oxygen deserve greater attention than concerts or paintings. Yet history quietly suggests otherwise. Even during wars, famines, and long migrations, people continued singing. They carved small sculptures. They told stories around fires. They celebrated weddings. They laughed. These activities did not distract them from survival. They were part of survival. A civilization without beauty slowly loses resilience. Imagine walking through a quiet garden aboard the ship after finishing a long day of work. Artificial sunlight filters through carefully shaped leaves. Water flows across smooth stones. Somewhere beyond the trees, someone practices a violin. The melody drifts softly through the air before fading into silence. Nothing about that moment repairs an engine, yet it quietly repairs something equally important: the heart. Future architects may therefore design entire districts dedicated not to efficiency, but to restoration. Libraries, music halls, small theaters, meditation gardens, museums preserving memories of Earth. Open plazas where children invent games their ancestors never imagined. Such places consume valuable space. Yet, they return something impossible to manufacture by other means: belonging. The ship slowly learns an ancient lesson already understood by every enduring civilization. People require meaning as much as comfort. This becomes especially important during grief. Across 1,000 years, countless lives begin and end aboard the vessel. Every family eventually says goodbye to someone they love. On Earth, cemeteries often overlook hills, forests, rivers, or oceans. Nature quietly surrounds remembrance. A generation ship must create new forms of farewell. Perhaps memorial gardens grow beneath artificial stars. Perhaps every generation plants a tree honoring those who came before. Perhaps recorded voices remain available, so descendants may hear distant ancestors speaking in accents no longer common. Memory becomes something people can walk through, not merely read about. These rituals quietly strengthen emotional continuity. They remind every child that life aboard the vessel forms one unbroken story, rather than disconnected generations drifting through time. Yet psychological health involves more than preserving the past. It also requires imagining the future. Hope is a remarkable force. People endure astonishing hardship when tomorrow appears meaningful. They struggle when tomorrow feels identical to yesterday forever. This is why long-term missions may intentionally create new goals beyond simple survival. Scientific discoveries, artistic achievements, athletic competitions, community projects lasting decades, new parks planted by one generation for another to enjoy. Progress does not always require changing location. Sometimes it requires changing perspective. The ship itself becomes a canvas for continuous renewal. Walls display evolving artwork. Neighborhoods slowly expand. Traditions adapt. Music develops styles unknown on Earth. Languages acquire gentle differences shaped by centuries of shared experience. Isolation does not freeze culture. It quietly encourages originality. Some historians describe culture as a conversation across generations. One voice begins, another answers, a third gently changes the melody. The conversation never truly ends. A generation ship simply conducts that conversation inside a moving world, rather than upon a planet. Of course, disagreements remain inevitable. Communities debate priorities. Young people challenge older traditions. New ideas compete with familiar customs. These moments should not always be feared. Healthy societies have always balanced continuity with change. Absolute agreement rarely produces resilience. Respectful disagreement often does. Perhaps children occasionally ask whether arriving at another star even matters. After all, everyone they know already lives here. Teachers respond patiently, not with commands. With stories, they explain that forests planted centuries earlier now provide shade because strangers cared enough to plant them. Every generation inherits gifts prepared by people they never met. The destination belongs to that same tradition, a promise extended forward, not an obligation imposed backward. Outside the hull, the stars remain astonishingly indifferent. They neither reward courage nor punish hesitation. They simply continue shining across distances too vast for ordinary imagination. Inside, however, something far more delicate continues unfolding. Human relationships, quiet conversations, shared laughter, moments of forgiveness, tiny acts of kindness repeated so often that they quietly become civilization itself. Perhaps this is the greatest discovery of the voyage. Technology carries humanity across the darkness. Compassion carries humanity across time. Yet even the strongest community depends upon silent partners working endlessly behind the scenes. Machines that purify water, circulate air, generate electricity, manufacture tools, repair damage before anyone notices. As centuries pass, another question slowly emerges. Who keeps those machines alive when they become older than entire kingdoms? Think about an old watch. Perhaps it belonged to a grandparent. The metal has softened with age. Tiny scratches cover its surface. Yet, when you gently wind the mechanism, the hands still begin moving. We admire such objects because they quietly outlive the people who first carried them. Their endurance feels almost miraculous. Now imagine asking not for 50 years, not for 1 century, but for 1,000 years. That is the quiet expectation placed upon the machines inside a generation ship. On Earth, we rarely build for such timescales. A family car may serve for 15 years. A bridge, perhaps a century, with careful maintenance. Even great buildings require constant restoration. Time slowly wears every material. Metal fatigues, rubber hardens, lubricants dry, electronics age. Dust gathers. Tiny imperfections patiently become visible. The universe does not hurry. It simply waits. A generation ship cannot depend upon replacement parts arriving from Earth. There is no warehouse hidden among the stars. Every bearing, every circuit, every pump, every valve, every cable must either survive extraordinary lengths of time or be replaced using materials already aboard. This changes the philosophy of engineering completely. Modern manufacturing often values efficiency, produce quickly, replace when necessary, improve with the next model. Such thinking quietly disappears during a 1,000-year voyage. Nothing is disposable. Everything becomes repairable. Imagine owning only one hammer for your entire civilization. You would care for it differently. You would teach children how to maintain it. You would preserve the knowledge required to forge another if necessary. That same mindset expands to every essential machine aboard the ship. Designers often describe this principle using a simple phrase: graceful failure. Instead of breaking suddenly, systems should weaken slowly. Small warning signs appear long before complete failure. A vibration changes slightly. Temperature rises by a fraction. Sound becomes subtly different. Sensitive instruments notice these quiet whispers while there is still time to respond. Machines, like living organisms, often reveal illness before collapse. Someone simply has to listen. Artificial intelligence may assist in this task. Thousands of sensors quietly observe the vessel every second. They compare today's performance with measurements taken years earlier. A pump consuming slightly more energy. A motor rotating almost imperceptibly slower. A pipe expanding differently as temperatures change. Each difference seems insignificant. Together, they tell a story. Yet even the most advanced software cannot tighten a loose bolt. Someone must still perform the work. Future generations, therefore, inherit not only machines, but craftsmanship. Engineers become caretakers rather than operators. Children grow up watching adults repair instead of replace. Workshops become places of learning. Apprentices stand beside experienced technicians. Skills pass gently from one pair of hands to another. The rhythm feels surprisingly ancient. For thousands of years, blacksmiths, shipbuilders, millers, and carpenters preserved civilizations through patient maintenance. The tools changed. The philosophy remained. Care extends life. Perhaps this explains why many proposed generation ships include complete manufacturing districts, metal foundries, ceramic workshops, electronics laboratories, precision machine shops, three-dimensional printers using recycled materials, robotic assembly lines capable of producing components no one originally expected to need. The ship slowly becomes its own factory. Raw materials circulate continuously. Old machinery becomes future machinery. A damaged support beam eventually returns as part of another structure. Worn electrical wiring yields valuable metals for new circuits. Nothing truly reaches the end of its usefulness. It simply changes purpose. This endless transformation resembles the forests described earlier. Dead trees nourish new growth. Old leaves become fertile soil. Nature rarely wastes. Human engineering slowly learns the same lesson. Some systems may even repair themselves. Future materials could seal tiny cracks automatically. Protective coatings might slowly regenerate after microscopic damage. Networks of maintenance robots travel through narrow tunnels inaccessible to people, inspecting hidden structures year after year. Most passengers never see them, like the roots beneath a forest. Their quiet work remains almost invisible. There is something comforting about that image. Thousands of tiny caretakers moving silently through the ship while everyone else sleeps, preventing tomorrow's problems before tomorrow arrives. Still, no technology eliminates uncertainty. Unexpected failures always remain possible. History reminds us of this repeatedly. Great empires collapsed because simple infrastructure failed. Aqueducts clogged, roads deteriorated, harvests declined. Small neglected problems eventually reshaped entire civilizations. A generation ship cannot afford such gradual forgetting. Maintenance itself becomes part of culture. Children may celebrate Engineering Day alongside traditional festivals. Schools teach practical repair skills from an early age. Public respect extends naturally toward those who quietly preserve systems that few people fully understand. Invisible work receives visible gratitude. Perhaps that is another lesson Earth sometimes forgets. The most important labor often happens out of sight. Water reaches the tap because countless hidden systems cooperate. Electricity arrives because distant workers maintain unfamiliar equipment. We notice these networks only after they fail. Passengers aboard the ship may understand their dependence more clearly. Every working light, every flowing stream, every comfortable room, every warm meal, all exist because someone cared enough to perform ordinary tasks with extraordinary consistency. The civilization survives through routine, not miracles. Outside, meanwhile, the stars remain patient witnesses. Their light continues traveling across centuries without noticing the tiny human world drifting between them. Inside, every repaired bolt quietly extends another generation's future. Every inspected cable postpones another possible crisis. Yet even perfect maintenance cannot prevent every accident. Some failures arrive without warning. Some decisions must be made under pressure. Sooner or later, every civilization encounters the same quiet question. What happens when something truly important finally breaks? Imagine hearing a faint drip somewhere inside your home late at night. At first, it seems almost unimportant. One quiet drop, then another. You tell yourself it can wait until morning, yet by the next day, a tiny leak has become a damp stain. A week later, the wood begins to swell. Months later, an entire wall may require repair. The greatest damage rarely arrives all at once. It begins quietly enough to escape attention. A generation ship lives by this lesson every day. Nothing truly small remains small forever. A microscopic crack inside a pressure vessel may begin no wider than a human hair. At first, sensors notice only a slight change. Air pressure falls almost imperceptibly. Structural stress increases by a fraction. No passenger feels anything unusual. Children continue playing. Gardens continue growing. Somewhere inside the hull. However, physics has already begun asking a question. How long before the opening grows larger? Space possesses no anger, no intention. It simply follows pressure. Inside the ship, warm air gently pushes outward every second. Outside, almost nothing exists. The difference between those two environments quietly presses against every wall, every window, every seal. The vessel survives because millions of tiny components continue cooperating without interruption. Most days, they do. Engineers therefore think differently about emergencies than many people imagine. Heroic last-minute rescues make compelling stories. Yet, real survival often depends upon preparation long before disaster appears. Redundant systems quietly wait in the background. Backup pumps remain idle until needed. Independent power networks isolate damaged sections. Automatic doors close before anyone reaches them. Preparation is the calmest form of courage. History offers many examples. Ancient sailors carried spare sails because storms eventually arrived. Medieval monasteries stored grain through prosperous years because difficult winters always returned. Remote Arctic communities repaired tools during summer while conditions remained gentle. Wise societies rarely waited for emergencies before preparing responses. A generation ship follows the same ancient habit. Every critical system possesses another system beside it. Sometimes two, sometimes three. If one water purifier stops functioning, another quietly continues working. If one computer network fails, another already knows what to do. Even leadership may follow similar principles. Important responsibilities pass through carefully prepared successors so that no single absence threatens the larger community. Resilience grows through repetition, not optimism. Fire presents another unusual challenge. On Earth, smoke rises toward the ceiling because warm air becomes lighter. Gravity quietly helps firefighters predict where danger will spread. Inside rotating habitats, fire behaves differently depending upon local gravity. Near lower gravity regions, flames may burn in unfamiliar shapes. Air circulation becomes as important as water itself. Engineers therefore design ventilation with remarkable care. Fans may reverse direction. Compartments isolate automatically. Oxygen levels change in controlled ways to slow combustion. The goal is never dramatic action. The goal is preventing small problems from finding new fuel. Radiation introduces another silent concern. Interstellar space appears empty, yet energetic particles constantly travel across unimaginable distances. Most pass harmlessly through the vast darkness. A few eventually meet the ship. Thick shielding absorbs much of this invisible rain. Water tanks may surround living quarters, because water quietly blocks certain forms of radiation remarkably well. Storage areas become protective walls. Everyday necessities perform hidden work. Even the ship's layout becomes part of survival. This pattern appears again and again. Nothing serves only one purpose. A reservoir stores water. It also protects people. A garden grows food. It also calms anxious minds. A corridor connects neighborhoods. It also provides emergency access during repairs. Efficiency gradually transforms into elegance. Perhaps this is why the vessel begins resembling a living organism more than a machine. The skeleton supports weight. The circulatory system moves resources. The lungs exchange gases. The immune system detects damage before illness spreads. Thousands of individual processes cooperate continuously without demanding attention. Passengers experience only the result, a safe, ordinary day. Most remarkable systems appear almost invisible while functioning properly. Think about your own heartbeat. You notice it mainly when something feels unusual. The same quiet principle guides the ship. Success sounds like silence. Yet every emergency eventually reaches beyond engineering. People must respond together. Imagine a maintenance team receiving news of structural damage deep inside the outer hull. They know exactly where to go because generations before them practiced similar procedures. Calm voices replace panic. Each person understands a specific role. One closes access corridors. Another confirms atmospheric pressure. Another prepares replacement materials. Training quietly transforms uncertainty into routine. The descendants may never think of themselves as heroes. They simply continue a tradition handed forward across centuries. Perhaps that tradition becomes one of the greatest inheritances aboard the vessel. Competence, not brilliance shown once. Steady excellence repeated thousands of times. Outside, the stars continue shining with complete indifference. They neither celebrate successful repairs nor mourn failed ones. The universe remains astonishingly quiet. Inside, however, every solved problem strengthens something larger than machinery. Trust. People begin believing that tomorrow can be protected because yesterday was carefully preserved. Trust spreads slowly, like roots beneath a forest. Invisible, patient, remarkably strong. Even so, another challenge waits beyond engineering. Machines may remain reliable. Communities may remain united. Knowledge may survive. Yet the people themselves never remain exactly the same. Children inherit more than stories. Across centuries, they inherit subtle biological changes as well. 1,000 years is a long time for a civilization. It is also a surprisingly long time for evolution to begin whispering its own quiet ideas. Imagine looking at an old family portrait taken 100 years ago. The resemblance is unmistakable. The eyes seem familiar. The smile survives across generations. Yet, small differences quietly appear. Fashion changes, language changes, habits change. Families remain connected, but they never remain completely unchanged. Time slowly reshapes every lineage without asking permission. Now imagine extending that quiet process across 1,000 years. The people living aboard a generation ship begin the voyage as ordinary humans from Earth. They may not end it exactly the same. This thought often inspires dramatic stories about sudden mutations or strange new species. Reality is likely to be much gentler. Evolution rarely moves with great spectacle. It prefers patience. Tiny differences accumulate across many generations. Most changes are almost impossible to notice while they are happening. Only history reveals their direction. Human beings have always adapted to their environments. Populations living at high altitudes gradually developed bodies that use oxygen more efficiently. Communities near the Arctic adapted to long winters and different diets. Tropical populations evolved beneath intense sunlight. These changes unfolded slowly through countless ordinary lives. A generation ship becomes another environment, not natural, yet persistent. Artificial gravity may closely resemble Earth's, but perhaps not perfectly. Lighting follows carefully programmed cycles. Diets depend upon cultivated crops rather than wild ecosystems. Medical technology prevents many diseases while allowing different biological pressures to emerge. Over centuries, these subtle influences quietly shape future generations. Biology never stops listening to its surroundings. Culture changes even faster. Languages provide one of the clearest examples. Compare modern English with the English spoken 1,000 years ago. The connection remains visible. Yet, many sentences become almost impossible for modern listeners to understand. Words disappear. New expressions appear. Pronunciation drifts gently from one century to the next. The same process would continue aboard the ship. Perhaps entirely new words emerge for places unique to the habitat. Children invent expressions describing the curved horizon inside the rotating cylinder. Engineers create technical vocabulary unknown on Earth, ancient idioms referencing oceans. Horses or thunderstorms slowly lose everyday meaning because few people experience those realities directly. Language quietly follows experience. Music changes as well. The first settlers carry songs remembered from Earth. Their grandchildren preserve many melodies while adding new rhythms shaped by life aboard the vessel. Instruments evolve using available materials. Composers write symphonies inspired not by changing weather, but by the gentle hum of life support systems, or the silent brilliance of distant stars beyond observation windows. Art records emotional geography. As geography changes, so does art. Architecture follows a similar path. The earliest neighborhoods may resemble familiar cities from Earth. Brick patterns echo ancient streets. Public squares recall places left behind centuries earlier. Eventually, however, descendants begin designing spaces for themselves rather than for memory. Buildings reflect the realities of life inside a rotating habitat. Public gathering places become more circular. Gardens intertwine with residential districts. Open ceilings reveal neighboring landscapes curving overhead. The ship develops its own architectural identity, not through rejection of Earth, through quiet adaptation. Religion and philosophy may also evolve. Some traditions remain remarkably stable. Others gradually reinterpret familiar teachings through the experience of interstellar life. Concepts of pilgrimage, home, stewardship, and destiny acquire fresh meaning when an entire civilization exists between stars for centuries. New questions inspire new reflections. Old wisdom discovers unexpected applications. History reminds us that every civilization quietly reshapes inherited beliefs while preserving familiar foundations. This process is neither unusual nor alarming. It is simply human. Even physical appearance may drift slightly over long periods. Not dramatically, yet small changes become possible. Different proportions, different average heights, variations influenced by nutrition, medicine, and environmental conditions. Future historians arriving at the destination might recognize these descendants immediately as human, while also noticing subtle characteristics unique to their 1,000-year journey. Identity therefore becomes layered. They remain descendants of Earth. They also become descendants of the voyage itself. This realization carries emotional weight. Imagine the first explorers finally stepping onto another world after a millennium. They gaze upward toward an unfamiliar sky. New constellations fill the night. Different seasons shape unfamiliar landscapes. The descendants understand that their ancestors dreamed of this moment. Yet they also recognize something quietly surprising. The planet before them is not returning them home. It is welcoming strangers. Not strangers because they lack human history. Strangers because history has patiently transformed them. Perhaps this is the greatest irony of the entire mission. The voyage intended to preserve humanity. Instead, it also gently created something new. Not a different species, a different civilization. Every long journey changes the traveler. A walk across a city changes your perspective for an afternoon. Crossing an ocean changes a lifetime. Crossing interstellar space reshapes centuries. None of these transformations erase the past. They simply add another chapter. Outside the ship, the universe remains almost impossibly ancient. Stars are born. Others quietly fade. Nebulae expand across millions of years. Entire solar systems continue following silent gravitational rhythms. Against that vast background, human evolution appears almost invisible. Yet invisibility does not mean insignificance. Tiny changes accumulated patiently often become the most enduring. A forest grows one ring at a time. A language changes one conversation at a time. A civilization matures one generation at a time. The descendants aboard the ship may never notice themselves becoming different. They simply continue living, learning, loving, remembering, forgetting, and carrying tomorrow gently forward. Yet even after surviving isolation, preserving knowledge, maintaining machines, and slowly evolving across centuries, one final companion has remained beside them from the beginning: the universe itself, silent, patient, never truly empty. Its darkness has always carried invisible forces quietly shaping the voyage. Now, at last, it is time to listen to those silent companions. Step outside on a clear night. Look upward for a few quiet moments. The stars appear peaceful. They barely seem to move. The darkness between them feels empty, almost gentle. From Earth, the night sky often resembles a still painting stretched across eternity. It invites silence rather than caution. Interstellar space tells a quieter and more complicated story. It is not truly empty. It is simply astonishingly sparse. Imagine standing alone inside a cathedral, so large that a whisper needs minutes to reach the opposite wall. The building feels empty because the space overwhelms every object inside it. Yet, the air still exists. Tiny dust particles still drift through the light. Silence fills the room. But silence does not mean absence. The space between stars behaves much the same way. Every cubic centimeter contains only a few atoms on average. That number sounds insignificant until the journey lasts 1,000 years. During that immense span, the ship quietly moves through trillions upon trillions of cubic centimeters. Even the thinnest mist eventually leaves traces upon a vessel traveling for centuries. Tiny grains of cosmic dust become surprisingly important. Most are no larger than grains of smoke. Individually, they carry little danger. Yet, velocity quietly changes everything. A particle striking at tens of kilometers each second carries far more energy than its tiny size suggests. Something smaller than a grain of sand can deliver the impact of a rifle bullet when moving fast enough. The ship therefore wears armor, not dramatic plates like those imagined in fiction. Layered shielding, thin protective surfaces positioned carefully apart. The first layer breaks incoming particles into smaller fragments. Later layers spread the remaining energy until little damage reaches the inhabited structure beneath. Engineers call this a Whipple shield. The principle is beautifully simple. Solve one large problem by transforming it into many tiny ones. Nature often follows the same strategy. Large ocean waves become harmless foam as they reach a gently sloping beach. Another invisible companion quietly surrounds the voyage. Radiation. Earth protects us with remarkable generosity. Its magnetic field quietly redirects many energetic particles. The atmosphere absorbs much of the remaining radiation before it reaches the ground. We notice thunderstorms. We rarely notice the invisible shield stretching far beyond the clouds. A generation ship cannot depend upon that protection. It must carry its own. Water becomes one of the most effective shields available. Tanks surrounding living quarters quietly absorb dangerous particles. Food storage areas provide additional protection. Even walls containing soil for agriculture contribute to the defense. Everyday necessities become silent guardians. The descendants may rarely think about them. Protection often succeeds by remaining unnoticed. Cosmic rays introduce another subtle challenge. These energetic particles occasionally pass through living tissue, damaging cells one molecule at a time. Most damage is repaired naturally. Human biology has evolved remarkable mechanisms for correcting mistakes inside DNA. Yet, across long periods, careful monitoring remains essential. Medicine aboard the ship, therefore, extends beyond treating illness. It watches probability itself. Doctors become observers of patterns unfolding across generations. There is something deeply humbling about this. Even surrounded by extraordinary technology, humanity still depends upon tiny molecular repair systems inherited from ancient ancestors that first lived beneath Earth's sky hundreds of millions of years ago. The oldest technologies aboard the ship are biological. Gravity and radiation are not the only invisible companions. Gravity itself continues shaping the voyage across unimaginable distances. Passing stars exert gentle influence. Giant molecular clouds subtly bend trajectories. The effects are extraordinarily small. Yet, navigation systems patiently account for every measurable pull. Tiny corrections accumulate into accurate journeys. The universe rarely pushes dramatically. It prefers gentle persistence. Imagine rowing across a perfectly calm lake. A faint breeze barely touches the boat. During 1 minute, the effect seems meaningless. During several days, that same breeze quietly changes your destination. Space behaves similarly. Small forces acting over enormous times become surprisingly important. Time itself becomes another companion. The clocks aboard the ship continue counting ordinary seconds. Children still celebrate birthdays. Meals still begin and end. Yet outside, the stars remind everyone that cosmic time flows differently from human time. Some stars shining ahead may already have changed long before their light reaches the travelers. A brilliant point visible tonight may secretly have faded centuries earlier. The universe always shows us history, never the exact present. That thought carries unexpected comfort. When the descendants gaze toward distant suns, they are looking into preserved moments. Ancient light patiently crosses the darkness before quietly entering human eyes. Every observation becomes a conversation with the past. Perhaps this explains why astronomy has always inspired reflection. It teaches patience. Nothing important happens quickly among the stars. Nebulae require millions of years to become suns. Mountains on distant planets weather across unimaginable ages. Galaxies slowly dance through gravity with movements too gradual for any individual observer to witness completely. Against such immense rhythms, the 1,000-year voyage appears almost brief, yet to the people aboard the vessel, it contains countless entire lives: birth, learning, friendship, loss, hope. Every ordinary human moment quietly unfolds while the universe continues its timeless motion. The descendants eventually understand something their ancestors only imagined. Space is neither hostile nor welcoming. It simply exists. Its silence carries no judgment. Its darkness hides neither malice nor kindness. Meaning arises somewhere else. Inside conversations, inside shared meals, inside classrooms, inside gardens, inside every decision to care for tomorrow. Perhaps that is the voyage's greatest discovery. The universe provides the stage. Humanity writes the story. Now, after centuries of quiet endurance, careful maintenance, living memory, and patient travel, another horizon slowly begins to appear. Not the end of the darkness, the beginning of another sun, arrival, however, may prove more uncertain than departure ever was. Imagine planning a journey for many years. You study maps, read guidebooks, save carefully. At last, you arrive. Yet the place before you is not exactly the place you imagined. A familiar building has disappeared. A quiet street has become a crowded square. Trees planted decades earlier now tower above every rooftop. The destination is real. Time has simply continued moving while you were away. Now imagine arriving after 1,000 years. The difference becomes almost impossible to measure. When the generation ship first departed Earth, astronomers selected a destination using the best knowledge available. Perhaps they identified a rocky planet orbiting within the gentle warmth of another star. Spectroscopy suggested water. Careful measurements hinted at an atmosphere. Computer models offered cautious optimism. Those observations were extraordinary. They were also incomplete. Even today, our most powerful telescopes rarely reveal continents, forests, rivers, or living creatures on distant worlds. They measure faint traces of light, tiny shifts in starlight passing through atmospheres, slight gravitational movements, small shadows crossing distant suns. Science patiently assembles a portrait from whispers 1,000 years later. The travelers finally approach closely enough to see the complete landscape. Only now does certainty begin. The descendants gather around observation galleries. Children who have studied this world since their earliest lessons finally witness it directly. Adults quietly compare reality with illustrations inherited from generations before them. The planet slowly grows larger. Cloud systems become visible. Polar regions brighten. Dark continents emerge beneath shifting weather. The destination transforms from an astronomical object into a place. That transformation changes everything. Distance has always protected imagination. Reality gently replaces it. Yet arrival does not mean immediate landing. Caution becomes the first companion. The atmosphere must be analyzed carefully. Temperature, pressure, chemical composition, microbial activity, radiation levels, seasonal cycles, geological stability. Every detail matters because this planet has never signed a promise welcoming human life. Nature owes us nothing. History repeatedly teaches this lesson. Early explorers on Earth often reached distant shores believing maps had prepared them completely. Many soon discovered unfamiliar diseases, unexpected climates, difficult terrain, and ecosystems behaving according to their own ancient rules. Another planet carries the same quiet uncertainty, only on a far greater scale. Perhaps the atmosphere contains oxygen, yet also subtle toxins harmful over long exposure. Perhaps gravity differs slightly from Earth's, requiring careful adaptation. Native microorganisms, if they exist, may ignore humans entirely, or they may interact with biology in unpredictable ways. The greatest wisdom during arrival may be patience. Robotic explorers step first. Small research stations follow. Long observation precedes permanent settlement. The descendants have waited 1,000 years. Another few years devoted to understanding their new world suddenly seem remarkably short. There is something deeply moving about this moment. The original builders never witnessed it. Every engineer who designed the engines, every child who planted the first gardens, every teacher preserving history, every physician protecting future generations, all became quiet chapters leading toward this single horizon. Arrival belongs equally to the living and the remembered. Perhaps memorial ceremonies quietly acknowledge that truth. Names spoken aloud, ancient recordings played once more, voices from Earth echo beneath an unfamiliar sun. The descendants stand together, not alone, surrounded by invisible generations. Yet another question slowly rises. Should they even leave the ship? To outsiders, the answer appears obvious. Of course they should. The entire mission sought another world for those born aboard the vessel. However, the choice feels more complicated. The ship is not merely transportation, it is home. Every friendship began there. Every family memory unfolded there. Every festival, every farewell, every ordinary morning. Leaving may inspire excitement. It may also awaken quiet grief. History has seen similar emotions before. Immigrants often loved both the homeland they left and the homeland they found. The two feelings rarely canceled one another. They simply coexisted. The descendants may experience something similar. They step onto new soil while carrying an older home within themselves. Perhaps the first footprints appear almost ceremonial. Gravity feels slightly different. The wind carries unfamiliar scents. Birds, if they exist, sing melodies never before heard by human ears. Clouds move freely across an open sky without engineered schedules. Rain arrives because nature chooses, not because computers planned it. Simple experiences become extraordinary. The warmth of direct sunlight, grass bending beneath natural wind, the distant sound of water flowing wherever gravity guides it. Many descendants may quietly realize they are experiencing these sensations for the first time, not because humanity forgot them, because humanity patiently carried the memory until reality returned. Even then, the ship remains nearby. Its familiar silhouette circles above or rests quietly in orbit. It resembles an old family home after moving into a new neighborhood, no longer the only shelter. Still deeply loved, perhaps future generations preserve it as a museum, a university, a sanctuary, a reminder that civilization once crossed the darkness inside those carefully built walls. The vessel deserves remembrance. It carried more than passengers. It carried continuity itself. Still, the greatest transformation has not yet fully arrived. The descendants have reached another world, yet one quiet question remains unanswered. After 1,000 years between stars, are they still simply people from Earth, or has the journey itself gently become their true origin? Imagine returning to your childhood home after many decades. The front door still stands where you remember it. The old tree still casts afternoon shadows across the yard. Yet, something feels quietly unfamiliar. The house has not changed very much. You have. The distance between memory and identity is often measured not by places, but by time. A generation ship reveals this truth more gently than almost any other human experience. The descendants finally stand beneath another sun. Fresh air fills their lungs without passing first through filters. Natural clouds drift without careful programming. A breeze moves through tall grass because an entire planet breathes around them. Everything their ancestors hoped to reach now lies beneath their feet. Yet the people who arrive are no longer the same people who departed. This is not a tragedy. It is the quiet cost of every long journey. History offers countless reminders. Ancient sailors returned home carrying unfamiliar customs gathered from distant ports. Merchants adopted new languages. Travelers discovered new foods. Pilgrims returned with different beliefs. Movement always reshaped identity. Interstellar travel simply stretches that ancient pattern across centuries. The descendants may recognize Earth as their birthplace in history, but emotionally, they belong somewhere else. Their first memories formed inside curved corridors. They learned to walk beneath artificial gravity. They celebrated birthdays inside rotating neighborhoods. They watched generations plant forests whose roots never touched natural soil. Those experiences cannot simply be replaced by a new planet. Home is rarely erased. It expands. Perhaps this creates an unexpected culture. The first settlements on the New World blend traditions from two homes rather than choosing one. Buildings may combine open courtyards with enclosed community halls inspired by the ship. Gardens include familiar crops carried across the stars beside native plants, slowly studied by botanists. Festivals celebrate both Departure Day and Landing Day. Children grow up hearing two creation stories. One begins on Earth, the other begins aboard the vessel. Neither story is complete without the other. Language quietly reflects this transformation. Old words remain, new words appear. Expressions describing curved horizons lose their practical meaning, but survive inside poetry. Terms describing natural weather become ordinary again after centuries of feeling almost mythical. Culture continues doing what it has always done, collecting the past without becoming imprisoned by it. There may also be moments of quiet misunderstanding between generations. The oldest descendants, those who spent their entire lives aboard the ship before landing, may continue longing for familiar corridors and carefully regulated seasons. Children born on the new planet cannot fully understand that feeling. To them, open skies become ordinary. Rain is simply weather. Mountains are simply mountains. History quietly repeats itself. Every generation inherits a different normal. The generation ship itself slowly changes purpose. Its engines fall silent. Its agricultural decks no longer produce every meal. Observation windows now face a nearby world instead of endless darkness. The vessel becomes a monument, not to technology, to perseverance. Visitors walk through preserved classrooms. They enter old gardens where the first fruit trees crossed interstellar space. They hear recordings of laughter captured centuries before arrival. Young students place their hands against worn railings polished smooth by countless ancestors. The ship becomes something museums on Earth have always tried to become, a place where ordinary lives feel extraordinary, because time has gathered gently around them. Perhaps the greatest lesson preserved inside those quiet halls is surprisingly simple. No civilization survives through perfect certainty. The builders never knew whether the destination would remain habitable. The farmers never knew whether future harvests would succeed. The engineers never knew whether every machine would endure another century. The teachers never knew whether every lesson would survive another generation. Yet they continued anyway. Hope was never confidence. Hope was commitment. The new world now begins writing its own history. Forests spread beyond the first settlements. Children explore rivers that no human eyes had ever seen. Scientists study unfamiliar ecosystems with patient curiosity. Artists paint sunsets belonging to another star. Life moves forward because life has always moved forward. Not by forgetting the past, by carrying it gently. Perhaps one evening, many years after landing, an elderly grandparent sits outside beneath a real sky with a curious child beside them. The child asks what it was like to live aboard the great ship. The grandparent smiles. They describe the humming corridors, the quiet gardens, the carefully measured mornings, the stars that never seem to grow closer. The child listens with wonder, just as earlier generations once listened to stories about Earth. The pattern continues. Memory becomes inheritance once again. The remarkable voyage ends exactly where every human story has always ended, around another conversation, between one generation and the next. Outside, the stars remain unchanged. They continue shining across unimaginable distances. The darkness between them remains patient. The universe neither celebrates nor mourns human achievement. It simply offers possibilities. Human beings provide the meaning, and perhaps that is the quiet answer hidden within the entire journey. A generation ship was never only carrying people toward another world. It was carrying humanity's ability to remain human wherever tomorrow happened to be. One final thought still waits beyond that realization. The greatest farewell was never spoken when the engines first ignited. It arrives only after the journey is complete, when humanity finally understands what it truly carried across the silent sea between the stars. When a candle burns through the night, we rarely notice each individual moment of light. We remember only that the room remained warm until morning. A civilization behaves much the same way. No single flame carries the entire darkness. Each one simply continues where another quietly ended. A generation ship is often imagined as humanity's greatest machine. Perhaps that is only partly true. It is also humanity's longest conversation. The engines carried metal across the stars. People carried meaning. Looking back across 1,000 years, the voyage no longer appears as an endless sequence of technical challenges. Gravity was solved, air was recycled, water returned again and again, crops continued growing, machines were repaired, children learned, elders remembered. New generations quietly accepted responsibilities they never personally chose. None of those achievements happened through extraordinary heroes appearing at the perfect moment. They happened because ordinary people repeated ordinary acts with extraordinary consistency. Someone checked a pressure valve. Someone planted another orchard. Someone repaired a classroom roof. Someone taught mathematics to children who would never meet them again after graduation. Someone composed a lullaby. Someone comforted a grieving friend. Someone carefully copied old records into newer archives before the originals faded. History often celebrates dramatic moments. Real civilizations survive through quiet mornings. Perhaps that is the deepest lesson the voyage offers. The distance between stars appears impossible because we imagine crossing it in a single lifetime. Nature almost never works that way. Forests grow one season at a time. Coral reefs expand one tiny organism at a time. Mountains rise through movements too slow for any individual eye to notice. Galaxies slowly revolve around invisible centers across hundreds of millions of years. The universe rarely hurries. Humanity succeeds when it learns the same patience. By the time the descendants finally stood beneath another sun, the original departure had already become almost mythical. The people who designed the mission had disappeared into history centuries earlier. Yet, in another sense, they had never truly left. Their decisions still lived inside every corridor, every rotating habitat, every tree planted aboard the vessel, every story told before bedtime. The builders survived through consequences rather than memories. Perhaps that is how all human beings quietly continue after their own lives end, not through monuments alone, through kindness repeated by strangers, through knowledge passed gently forward, through habits becoming traditions, through traditions becoming culture. A 1,000-year voyage simply makes those invisible connections easier to see. It reminds us that every generation borrows the future from people it will never meet. There is something unexpectedly comforting about this realization. Most of us will never build a generation ship. Most of us will never travel between stars. Yet every ordinary life already participates in a similar journey. Parents prepare children for a future they will not completely witness. Teachers educate students whose greatest achievements may happen decades later. Scientists begin research completed by others. Gardeners plant trees whose full shade belongs to someone else. Even writing a letter resembles sending a tiny message into tomorrow. The scale changes. The principle remains. Perhaps that is why the story of a generation ship feels strangely familiar despite its impossible setting. It magnifies patterns already present within everyday life. We are all temporary caretakers. None of us truly owns the future. We simply help shape it before quietly passing it onward. Outside, the universe continues exactly as it always has. Stars are born inside cold clouds of gas. Others slowly exhaust their fuel and fade into darkness. Planets circle patiently around distant suns. Light crosses the silent gulf between galaxies without asking whether anyone waits to receive it. The cosmos remains wonderfully indifferent. And yet, inside that immense silence, consciousness appears. A child laughs. An elder tells a story. Friends share a simple meal. Someone pauses beside a quiet garden beneath an artificial sky. Another watches a real sunrise for the first time. Meaning does not arrive from the stars. It travels outward from the human heart. Perhaps that is why the darkness never truly wins. Not because it disappears, because people continue carrying light through it. The generation ship ultimately discovers that survival was never only about preserving bodies. It was about preserving trust, curiosity, compassion, memory, patience, the quiet willingness to continue caring for tomorrow, even when tomorrow belongs to someone else. Those qualities weigh almost nothing, yet they become the heaviest cargo aboard the entire vessel. As the old ship rests peacefully beneath a new constellation, its engines silent at last, another generation walks beneath open skies without fear. Children who never knew the voyage chase one another across unfamiliar fields. Wind moves naturally through leaves. Rivers follow valleys shaped long before humanity arrived. Evening slowly settles across another world. Somewhere nearby, the great vessel still waits, not as a prison, not as a machine, but as a gentle reminder. Home is not always the place where a journey begins. Sometimes home is the promise people choose to protect together. And perhaps, as the stars continue their patient dance above another horizon, the longest voyage humanity ever imagined leaves behind one final, quiet truth. We never crossed the darkness alone. Each generation carried the next until the light arrived.